Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayana
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayana
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadeva Bhakta Vrinda
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadeva Bhakta Vrinda
Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana 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 Gopala Govinda Rama Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate.
Good morning, everyone. Haribol Namaste. Today is the last day of this week, and people usually say, "Thank God it's Friday." You can relax, you can rest, but actually, it's just label of this day in this material world. So before we start, I'd like to offer my humble obeisances, my most humble obeisances to our dear spiritual master. Namaom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Ite Namine Bhajashri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Haribol. The topic that we're going to tackle this morning is very common to us, especially in the Filipino body, where relationships are tight, closely knitted, and these are common, and we usually come in contact with this, encounter this, but sometimes these two words are intertwined, or we're confused which is good and not good. In our daily activity, in our daily life in this world, we always come in contact with so many experiences, bad or good. And when it's good, normally we feel happy, yeah? And we immediately say, "Thank you, Lord." If it's not good, then we don't thank we don't thank the Lord, yeah? Especially when we take board exam, and we really contemplate of getting positive result from the exam, and when the result came, we fail. So it's like it hurts, it ripped our heart, and we don't thank the Lord. It's only when we receive blessings that we are thankful, we express gratitude. But if we don't, we forget everything. We don't acknowledge those people who have rendered help in our endeavor, because we get so frustrated with our expectation. We fall short with our expectation. When there is calamity, just like what happened lately, Odette, yeah, it badly hit Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, Surigao. So many of our friends were very badly hit because their roof was flown by the wind, very strong wind, and it left them so devastated that they didn't have shelter anymore. They didn't have food. And we, as relatives to those people who are victims of Odette, we feel sad. We feel very sad. When you know that your very close relative is badly hit by a calamity, how do we usually act? For example, we have not yet heard the teachings of our spiritual master. Of course, it's different when we heard already because our perception, our perspective in life has changed. Yeah. For example, we have not heard yet, and we heard over the radio or over the television or messenger that our relative, our very, very close relative, brother or sister, met an accident. How do we usually act? Kirtan. Or just like the example of Sir, you go to school and when you go home, you see a lot of people are in your house and there are lights and it's like something is happening there, and when you approach your house, you see a casket and the body of your mom is there. What do you usually do? Or even in movies, in our neighborhood, we can observe that. Yeah, anywhere, in the city, in the urban area, in the rural area, we can see how people react in that kind of scenario. Jaisa, what have you observed in Rumagook when somebody leaves or when somebody got hit by the motorcycle and the body got laminated to the wall, to the tree or to the rock? So how do they react? It's like they get shocked, and how do they react? It's like they feel very uncontrollable. Yeah, they shout, they throw things, or they get so angry with the one who did the accident. Like, for example, the driver of the motorcycle. Once you drive a vehicle and it hits somebody, then you better hide because you'll be surely killed by the relatives. Is that happening also in your place, Sky? There's this vehicle accident, a collision, and then even if it's the fault of the one that got killed, the relatives will overact and kill the driver. They don't act like that. Here, it's different. Yeah, you better hide when you do such a thing because you'll surely be killed. Yeah, even their dog. If they love the dog so much and you hit the dog with your motorcycle, you better proceed. Do not say, I'm sorry. Because the emotion is uncontrollable. They cannot just control it. They're so driven by their mind, by their anger, that they don't know what will happen next. Sir had that experience here when we first came to Kibawe, and we were planting flowers here, and Sir went to Kibawe Central School and got Bermuda grass, and we were waiting here for him to bring the Bermuda grass here, and we wondered how come it took him long to arrive. So we didn't know that at the other corner he met accident. He was able to run across two motorcycles collided, and the baby of the passenger fell, and Sir's instant reaction is to carry the baby because of the feeling of being so sorry. But it's not his fault actually. It's the fault of the motorcycle's driver. And immediately he was punched in the head. Yeah. So, and when there was, so it was brought to the police. Yeah. And immediately he told that I couldn't remember. It's like I forgot everything, and all that came to me is to revenge, take revenge. So, and my dad is a lawyer, and my dad said, no, you have to go to jail. So things like that happen. So what I'm supposed to discuss, what I will be discussing this morning is from the lecture of our dear spiritual master. So early this morning, I heard his lecture about these two confusing feelings of people. Is it really when we feel sad? Is it compassion? Or it is just a lamentation? So these two terms are very close, that sometimes we can't identify which is good or bad. When usually when we have not heard of the teachings of the Parampara or from the scriptures, we usually are carried away by our emotion, and that's driven by our mind. The mind dictates us, do this, do that, and because we have not heard that we are not our mind, we have not heard that we can control our mind because it's a mere possession of the person. We get carried away. We are driven by it. Whatever it dictates, we usually follow. So we're so lucky, we're so fortunate that we're able to hear these words of wisdom from Bhagavad Gita, from our dear spiritual master. It's in, where's that? In text, chapter 2, text 11. Okay. In Bhagavad Gita, the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, it says here, please kindly listen very carefully. The Blessed Lord said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning. You know what's mourning? You're like having sympathy. You are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. So the ones we discussed about those scenarios that immediately we act like this and like that. So here's instruction from Bhagavad Gita. While speaking learned words, you are mourning of what is not worthy of grief. So Lord Krishna here is speaking to Arjuna. Okay, where's that? The portrait here When we see the altar, when we offer to Nitai Gaur, at the right side facing the altar, we can see Krishna instructing Arjuna. Or you see the mural there of grade 3 classroom. That's Arjuna being instructed by Krishna. So I purposely asked Ken Lord to paint it there so that we all get reminded of our position, being the dominated servant of Lord Krishna. Those who are wise. So what do you mean by wise? What do we say wise for those people who are scholarly, who are statesmen or politicians? Do we say they're wise? For those who are wise, lament neither for the living, for the dead. So by just hearing this, we can... I have to first explain that Arjuna, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was telling Krishna, I'm not going to fight. I don't like to fight in front of the battlefield, in front of the enemies. Why are they enemies? Because they are aggressors. They start the fight. They like to fight the aggressors. And Arjuna, being a warrior, he is going to protect the people of the land. So that's the meaning of a warrior. You are a protector. And those aggressors, those enemies in front of him, most of them are his relatives, his friends, his uncles. So how can he fight when they are bloodly related? It's difficult, right? If we are in that situation. Commonly, in our place, when it's a relative, immediately we sympathize. We feel so different with our relatives than with others. It's like when they're meeting depression or poverty, they're poverty-stricken, immediately our heart becomes so soft and extend help to those relatives of ours. But to those who are not, we don't feel that way, right? So same with Arjuna, when he was about to fight in the battlefield, he told Krishna, I cannot fight. How can I when they are my relatives? And so Krishna instructed him this. Lord Krishna instructed Arjuna this while speaking learned words, because Arjuna is a very intelligent person. You are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither the living nor the dead. So that means that though he is very learned, Arjuna, he was put in the situation that he was in ignorance. Remember the lecture about Yoga Maya and Mahamaya? You remember that? That in spiritual world, ignorance is bliss. Do you remember that? I think you've heard it, but maybe it just slipped in your mind. That in the spiritual world, I think Nice was the last person who explained that to us. That how can God enjoy how can the mother enjoy being a mother to Krishna when he knows that her son is God? So it's like, oh God, yeah. How can you let him drink your milk when you know that? So he was put in yoga maya, and it's a transcendental illusion that you forget that you cannot remember that Krishna is God. You don't know that He's God, and so you can enjoy your relationship. And so with friends of Krishna, if they know that Krishna is God, how can they play with Him? So they cannot simply let Him ride on their back, or they ride on His back, because how can you cannot imagine riding on God's back. So they're put in illusion that Krishna is just an ordinary person. So same here with Arjuna's situation. He was put in illusion that he doesn't know anything. He is in ignorance. And that is why he refused to fight. And next to this, Krishna says, "Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be." So the reason why Arjuna in that specific time was put in illusion, so that Bhagavad Gita would be spoken, and so that people like us, we learn the absolute truth about our real identity. So when you are in ignorance, you lament. You lament for the dead. So Krishna here states that the wise person, so wise person means you are free from material desires. You know, you've heard that you are not your body. You know that you are spirit, soul, part and parcel of Krishna. You know that you are dominated by the laws of material nature, laws of karma, different laws of the land. And your function is to render loving devotional service to God. So when you're wise, understanding this absolute truth, you don't lament. Okay? You don't lament because you know no one dies. Because you know that only the body dies. So for example, one of your relatives, especially the dearmost friend of ours, our spouse or our parents, when something happens to them, our reaction will not be that worse, will not be that just like what we've discussed a while ago, that when we have not heard yet this philosophy, this truth, then our action is overly. We overact. Just like my friend, when his spouse left her body and the body was about to be placed in a tomb, then my friend, I saw him. It's like, don't stop me, I'll go inside the tomb. It's like, oh, okay, go. Yeah, but after like a month, because it's like showing that he really loves his wife. And after a month, you can see he got married and his wife is already pregnant. So that means when the relationship was still going on, they already had a relationship with the new wife. So it's like showbiz. Yeah, it's like a show, a movie. So that kind of reaction is not observed when we understand our true identity, that we are not this material body. Of course, normally we feel sad, but the sadness that we feel is based on love, on compassion. We don't lament because lamentation is based on ignorance. We lament thinking that the person is gone. So when we hear the truth, that's the kind of reaction that we are expressing, but it's just a compassion based on love, based on the teachings of the saintly persons. When we extend help to others, it's not a kind of sympathy based on lamentation, but based on love. So the greatest welfare or the greatest act that we can do towards others based on compassion is what? Is what? Brian? Knowing that you are not your body, knowing that you are spirit, soul, child of God, child of Allah, knowing that we are bound to serve and love God, then what will be the greatest welfare that we can do towards our neighbors, towards others? To respect them. Okay, your answer is not wrong. So it's correct because it's not wrong, but that's not the point. Any other guess? Show V. Because we cannot avoid extending help, assisting other people. And just like in my past lectures, when there is like our relatives that are being hit by typhoon, we immediately extend help. It's by like giving clothes, yeah, by giving. This is a great example. When there's someone who needs food, this is gross because it's not a vegetarian example. For example, there's your neighbor needs food, and in the cliche, it's stated that to give, instead of giving your neighbors food, you teach them how to plant or to have a garden. Yeah. But if it's immediate, of course, you give malunggay and root crops because they might die of starvation. But it's stated that it's best to teach them how to do garden so that the next time they need food, then they can just pick from their garden, not anymore go to the neighbors and ask for vegetables. Yeah? What is it that is the best welfare act? Let's see. Ramadasi? Or? Okay, very correct. That's good. Actually, the greatest welfare work for everyone is to give them the philosophy, the teachings, give them God, give them the teachings so that they become learned, they become knowledgeable, or they know the wisdom that we're supposed to apply in our life. Because if you give something to the person and it is consumable, and when it's gone, then it's gone. But when we educate people that this is the absolute truth, then they know how to traverse the jungle of material life and the science. So they will not be in ignorance thinking that this world is made for them to enjoy. Rather, they would know that having this human form is a very great responsibility of knowing the absolute truth and try to pass it on to others and not act foolishly, enjoying the world, investing so much in this world, very busy accumulating material wealth, and in the end, we're just going to leave them behind. So that is not anymore the perspective of the person hearing this absolute truth, hearing these teachings of Bhagavad Gita and the teachings of Lord Jesus Christ. Sometimes when we say lamenting, we tend to confuse it with compassion. But these two words are different. When we say lamentation, it is based on ignorance, based on bodily identification. I lament because he is my relative. I lament because they are my parents, they are my children. But you don't lament with others because you have no biological relationship. So compassion means there's no bodily designation. You feel compassion towards that person based on love because you know he is your brother, she is your sister, and you are all children of God. That's why you are obligated to help, to extend help by letting him understand that this world is temporary, that this world is not our home, that our real world is in the spiritual kingdom where God is. Though we know God is everywhere, God is in everything we see. But the thing is, we know that this is not our home because this world is temporary. Okay. So we must be very thankful to the scriptures because it enlightens us. The Bhagavad Gita enlightens us. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the Quran, the Bible. When these scriptures are spoken by the pure devotee of God, then they can enlighten us. Okay, so it's not just spoken by whoever. It should be spoken by somebody who is also enlightened, meaning that person must know he is not his body. That person must know he is a servant of God. Because it's ridiculous hearing from someone about words of God, but he doesn't know his true identity. That is first and foremost. That is the basic foundation of life, material or spiritual. The basic foundation is you must know who you are. And in our subject in senior high, there's this knowing yourself, and written by an author who doesn't even know who he is. So what will happen is the students will just be guided towards materialism because the teacher doesn't know his real identity and his goal in life. That is why we teachers, it is our best fortune that we've known this science, and for us to deliver our topics, our subject matter to our students, it should be aligned with the teachings of Parampara. And that is the reason why there's Madana Mohana Academy, so that everybody is taught this science. And the long period of time that we are in darkness will be influenced by the teachings of the saintly persons. So there's no more darkness when we hear this truth. Okay? So, so let me read it again so that it will be really absorbed by everybody. Text 11. The Blessed Lord said, so Krishna states, while speaking learned words, okay, this is addressed to Arjuna and to all the people who think they're learned. You are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So we must always remember that our feelings or emotions must be based on love. And if it is based on love, we feel compassion towards others, our brothers and sisters or neighbors, whoever. And not only them, to animals, to all living entities. That's why we're not supposed to kill the animals. We're not supposed to hurt any living entities. Because based on compassion, we're supposed to care for them. So that's all for this morning, and I hope you're able to grasp the lecture. So before I'll end, because I still have 5 minutes, can I have any insights from the lecture? Ananta. Anything, or in any dialect or language. But I know you can speak in English. What have you understood? Stand up. Okay, come on. Let's start with Haridas, the bravest, pinakamatapang. What have you heard from me, from what I've said? What is lamentation? Anything that you've heard, anything that you understand. Kirtan, what you've written in your notes. Lamentation is based on lamentation. Huh? When people lament, it's based on ignorance. And when they feel compassion, that's based on love. Since they have not heard of the teachings, that's why they lament. And they are thinking it's based on love, but actually it's just based on ignorance. What else do you have there? Michelle? Kindly put off. What have you understood?
something happens, we can already figure out, we can already, I mean, we can do a parang a balance that that's there, that's natural. And
It's like it's their karma.
yes, that's their karma, that, that, that bad thing happens to them. And hindi na tayo nag-freak out. Kasi alam natin na karma nila yun. And that's why nangyari sa kanila yun.
Okay.
Nagpapasalamat tayo kay Lord Krishna na narinig na natin yung mga bad karma natin.
Nasusunog na. Okay, in advance. Okay, Herbal. Any other? Devi? Herbal. Okay, correct. Perfect. Another? Meron pa. There's still one important na hindi pa na banggit. Madam Stella?
The things that have deeply, meron siyang deep meaning from, based on the discussions that we have today is about gratitude. Sometimes, I have reflected it earlier because sometimes we tend to forget to gratify or to express our gratitude even though we have this dark, I mean, not so good situation. We forget that everything that happened has a reason and it's based on our karma. And so with that, we should have, we should,
Thank.
yeah, alaguin na natin yung ating relationship unto Him so that we can have this purification and also this enough wisdom that we should be very thankful in every situations that we will encounter because we know that we are being protected and being protected by Krishna and yeah, that I think is the most important.
Okay, thank you. That's why when we're happy, we chant Krishna. When we're sad, we chant Krishna. When we are depressed, when when we fail, chant Krishna. When we win, chant Krishna. So whatever situation we are in, we chant Krishna. We thank Him. Miss Kay? Through scriptures. Okay, very good. What about Miss Leslie? I have not heard of you yet. The first thing that I mentioned, and not the introduction, but about the topic. Okay. 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 Another who has a different view or another view. Another insights, Rama. You're done, yeah? Are you done? Same. Jaisa last.
Okay, so one is ignorance and another lament. So we we act differently in what is true. And of course, the greatest um, welfare we can give to those who are in need is the love and of course the science of truth that who we are. We are the spirits and part and parcel of God, and especially we should give them the knowledge that this world we are living is just temporary. So we should do act differently according to what is true. And then go. When we understand the absolute truth, all material limitation are no longer existed. So the feelings of love, gratitude, and compassion are set to the top, which is God, God consciousness.
Okay. Lisel, you like to add? Your smile is very sweet, so you must have something there. And Rahal. Yeah.
This lecture I learned about the two conclusive feelings we have, which is the God organization of one compassion. In an instant when someone dies, we usually feel devastated and sad, but a wise man don't feel sad when someone leaves the body because a wise man is
Neither.
it understands the transcendental truth of our true identity, that our essence, our passions, and our positions in life. So when someone died in our family, we don't need to be sad because and if we are
No, no, it's natural that we feel sad, but it's not that
not
lamentation.
yeah, not that limitation. It should be in compassion that if we understand that our God is present and good.
Okay, I have one question here. So since we've learned this, what can we do when someone leaves his body? For example, we're here. Then a relative of ours somewhere in Cebu or somewhere in Batangas left his body. Okay, so what we can do? Prayer, chant. But in our situation here, especially in the Philippines, it's like we are obligated to really show our presence. Even if if you're very far, then you really spend so much just to go to the funeral so that people will see that you're there, and it's like it's a sign of love. But actually, it's not love. Okay? So wherever we are, and if our loved one, for example, left his or her body, then all we can do is chant and pray to God that he'll get protection from him. Of course, he's always protected. But when we chant, it's like even if we don't go to the vigil, yeah, which people really spend so much for food because the neighbors go there and all the friends are there. So it's like spending so much unnecessarily. So there's no need to do that because that practice is not really that relevant, but it becomes like a reunion. Yeah, so ito pa parang naging relevant kasi naging reunion. But actually, in the real sense, there's no need to do that. You can just pray. Because our custom is, we care what people say. We care so much what they say. What will my relatives say that I'm not there during the death of my father or like that? That's why we make so much effort to be there. And and no one will help you, whatever will happen to you. So you see how great this wisdom is, how great the burden is unloaded in our back, hearing this wisdom. Para tayong nabunutan ng malaking thorn. A big thorn is being displaced or being uprooted from our heart, knowing this wisdom. Okay? And the one thing that I'm really waiting for you to share is this. Those who are wise, those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So you should always remember that. And this, let us not mourn for what is not worthy of grief. Do not mourn for what is not worthy of grief. Okay? Because no one left, actually. Thank you very much, Haribol. Namaste. Let's have chat.
Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestayate, Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa Namine, Swarupaya, Radha Krishna Prestayate, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Dayanya, 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 Vaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nishananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasade Gaur Bhakta-vrinda, Vaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nishananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasade Gaur Bhakta-vrinda, Gopala Govinda Rama Krishna, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama Krishna, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, 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 Madana Mohana, Paramahamsa namine Gaura Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Krishnaya Te Namo Siddhaswarupananda